And we are back for another week of LiucciCast with Sean Porter after a disappointing loss against Auburn out there in Alabama. What happened, Luch?
Man, I just thought, Sean, we've talked about it a lot this week, and, you just can't show up on the road in the SEC and let a team just get on top of you early. Because and I know they had a million chances to win it at the end, but I don't know. Y'all played. Y'all know this more than me.
Well, let me quickly. Today we got a very, very special guest on the show. Somebody who I look at as a little brother, Mr. Damontre Moore, as you can see us embracing in this picture that we got in the background. How are you doing, sir? I'm glad to have you on to talk Texas ball this week.
Thanks for having me, man. I guess you were just so overly excited you forgot about your boy, like always.
Let me ask you this. Can you see the screen, Damontre?
Man, I can.
Who do you think got the sack on that play? Because I think it looks like Sean and everyone. Yeah, I agree.
You know who got it. That's why Sean over there giving me love.
I agree.
He might have set it up for me.
Yeah, and you can see you've got a more genuine smile. You look like you're ready to cry out there. So we've gone through it. I've talked my thing a lot, Trey. Like I just don't think you can go on the road and fall behind like that. You guys did that your whole last year here. Y'all buried teams early, and you guys know better than anybody like how hard it is to climb back. Not that it was on that level at all, because the two teams I'm about to talk about were so much better. But it reminded me of like that Bama game where you guys are up 20-0. They almost come all the way back, but then you leave it to where anything can happen at the end. And to me, it never should have gotten there. And look, we'll talk more about it later. They're very lucky and fortunate that everything didn't get ripped away from them Saturday night, because somehow, some way it didn't. Somehow the craziness of the SEC this year has given them another chance. What were your thoughts going into that game and coming out of it?
Man, going into that game, I think I was saying the same thing that everybody was saying. It was a unanimous consensus about how this is the trap game. But like you said, that goes to show you the SEC is tough week in and week out like hell. Who would have thought that Vandy would be having the year that they're having at Auburn? And to be honest, I'm a little baffled because I feel like the one thing that's been killing us all year, we're coming out slow, and we always been a second half team, and we cannot do that. And we did that against South Carolina. You would have figured that we learned our lesson from it and said, hey, let's come out hot and jump on these boys. And like you said, what you alluded to earlier, playing against the Bamas, and when we first came into the SEC, like when you get a big deficit like that, it's very hard and very unlikely for you to come back. So my hat goes off to the team. We showed how resilient we are. We showed how explosive we can be and the potential we had. But at the same token, like, you can't let that train get started too slow. Not for this Texas team that's about to come in and play us, and then for where we want to go. If we have any aspirations and hopes of going to the playoffs, and not just going to the playoffs, but making it past the first round, you got to jump out on them first. It's a fight. Like, what are you going to do? Sit there and wait for their best punches? Sometimes you wait for that best punch, you might get knocked out, and that's what happened this past weekend.
I agree. I was saying the same thing. We started off slow. I think that we have a kind of a bad habit of starting slow this season and taking those first quarters off. And you can't do that against a good team. A good team is going to, crush you.
Well, and certainly can't do that against this team that's coming in here Saturday night. It is literally the first time. I know you guys are probably so sick of seeing the highlight, seeing Justin Tucker kick that ball through. I know how bad you guys would have loved to have gotten a piece of them in that Cotton Bowl the following season. Instead, you got to beat up on OU. But interesting timing on the day that Mac Brown gets fired. We're sitting here talking about that game. And what were some of y'all's memories from that football game? What are the lasting? What all these years later, what do you think about first just that game, and then I want to talk to you about the A&M Texas series?
For me, with just that game, we talked about one of the things earlier in that big trick play that they ran against us with the reverse pass to Shipley.
Because you guys were pitching a shutout at that point.
Yeah. And that kind of opened the floodgates on us. I remember Justin Tucker just being a hell of a kicker and thinking, like, why is he making this look so easy? And it's not that easy.
Little did we know at the time.
Yeah, little did we know he's the best kicker that ever lived. I just remember the environment. It was just an electric environment here at Kyle Field, and just exactly what you'd expect from just a heated rivalry game. And crowd was into it, we were into it, and it's just, every time Texas versus Texas A&M happens, I expect it to be just like a dogfight. Each and every time. Like, I don't care about the rankings. I don't care about who's number whatever. I expect it to be a dogfight, and that's what it was out there on that day. I expect that to happen on Saturday again.
Yep.
Yeah. For me, just kind of piggyback off what he said, between not just, you remember so much about the game, just the environment, the electricity. But for me, I think looking back on it now, the biggest thing for me is missed opportunity. Like I said earlier before the show started, we could have went 2-0 at least my tenure there at A&M. And so for us to lose the game in the manner that we lost it, which was kind of the story of us always getting there, being really close and not being able to finish it. So that's the one big thing, because yes, we talk about the one play that kind of lost it with the trick play, but there was other opportunities in the game to where we could have ended that early, or we could have did this, and it was like, man, if we'd have did that, we wouldn't have left it in somebody's hands. So it'll what he said, missed opportunity, but also mainly the excitement and the thrill, and it has me hungry and waiting for. I feel like what was that, over 10 years ago? I still got a bad taste in my mouth. So 13 years. So yeah, so 13 years too long for us to come back and put our foot on somebody's neck.
Yeah. And every year since then, each and every Thanksgiving, I've had to sit my butt on the couch and watch us get whooped by Texas in a replay.
Yeah, they show it. That's right. I mean, there's so many things about that game that day, and it was so close to, I still say the one thing no one ever talks about, and you and I talked about it a few weeks ago, is that little, on a long run against Kansas in a blowout game, Cyrus Gray pulls a hammy.
Oh, yeah. That
changed everything. I think we didn't know it then, and Ben Molina ran his ass off in that game.
Yeah.
But that play is probably the difference, because Cyrus was killing not only the entire Big 12, but he was looking to have another game like the year before when he went for 200 in Austin. Yep.
Not many backs like Cyrus Gray.
No.
In A&M history, so we know that.
No. And
he almost played through, what people don't realize is he had a broken collarbone, and that shows you like a testament how tough he was. There was a possibility that he was actually going to play.
Oh, that was the collarbone one. That was not the hammy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It was the collarbone, and so he just he
was about to tough it out.
he really was about to tough it out, and made the best decision for him. And later on, getting ready to go for the draft and combine and all that stuff, but. Yeah, man. If we'd have had Cyrus, that would have gave us one more explosive weapon on the offense. And also, he understands experience is the best teacher. Like, I love Ben to death. He was running the ball like crazy that year, but there's a certain comfortability you get with being mature, being in that game, being in that environment, and then also having a little extra sauce in the bag, because it's your last time that you're ever going to play Texas. And we knew that we were leaving potentially that next year. So I think that would have gave him a bigger spark to just go out there and have a 200 game. But like you said, if was a fifth.
Yeah.
Yep. I think Cyrus was a very calming piece to our team, in those days. So he would have helped everybody being on the field.
And one of the best dudes, too, on top of it. So as it stands, surprisingly, because I thought that was it. When they lost to Auburn, I said, well, in my head, I was like, maybe Vandy beats Tennessee, something interesting with that. But I kind of stopped with that game. When that game was over, I said, that's probably it. And then quickly you find out, oh, no. The SEC says the winner of A&M Texas is going to Atlanta.
Yep.
Okay? And this is where I just want to tell people, I'm like, God, y'all want to give no credit to A&M for beating Florida, for beating Arkansas, for beating who else? Missouri or LSU. We want to give no credit right now to not we. I mean, I think common sense people do, but the loudest bottom group among us want to say, what have they really done? Like, man, beating those ask Tennessee about it. Ask Ole Miss about it. Ask LSU about it. Ask, I don't know if Missouri's really beaten them. Missouri, ask South Carolina what Missouri gave them down to the last play. Like, A&M ran that team out of the building. They can win this game. Sean and I talked about it. I know you think so, Trey. What do they have to, besides the fact that I think there is no doubt this football team and a lot of teams that are either like good but not great, solid to good football teams in this league, the great ones are elite wherever they play, right? Yep. The good ones are a lot better at home. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean Texas can't come in here and play a good game, but A&M is a lot tougher to beat here than they are in Columbia, South Carolina, or Jordan-Hare. Besides that, guys, give me one or two things that you guys think the Aggies have to do to beat this Texas team.
Go ahead, Trey.
That's a phenomenal question. The two things that I would say that I think are going to be the biggest components to us beating Texas would be, one, most importantly, go out there and start off fast. Like, don't be the second half team continue to be the second half team that you are, to make those adjustments and play better than the first half. But, like, let's make that first half kind of match our second half and then get better. Let's be like wine and get better with time, because too many times we're going out there and we're not producing. We're not trusting the run. We're not actually allowing our run to develop to where Marcel can get back there and get comfortable in reading his keys to actually making those throws downfield and just showing that offensive firepower. Because I don't see what is so day and night about the first half to the second half. Every game that we have won this year, yes, we've shown how resilient we are, and we've been able to add our points up. Fourth quarter is our quarter. We own it. Every time Sean can he can be a witness to it. Every time we used to always at the fourth quarter hold up that 4 and say that's going to be our best quarter. But the thing that Coach Sherman used to tell us was you have to play all 4 quarters, but make the fourth the best one. And right now we've been making the fourth the best, but we're not playing complete 4 quarters of all 3 phases of football. That would be the first thing. Offense come out firing. And then the second thing is a challenge to that defense. Like, yes, we have been playing good, but A&M is a better school when the defense is firing. We're known for being the wrecking crew and being the backbone of it. And yes, we have a lot of players that are making plays. We potentially have 3 first-rounders on our defensive line. And when they came out at the beginning of the season, I want to see the defense that we seen the first 6 games of the season. The defense that was going in there and single-handedly keeping us into the game. Even though our offense wasn't scoring that much in the first half, you didn't notice it because we were either pitching shutouts or people were getting 3 points. And you knew that the defense was going to get there. Later in this year, I don't know if it's just because the year goes on, you start reading the press, and then it's easy for you to get a little complacent. But we got to get back to doing it all 3 phases, the front end, back end, linebackers all work together, but I need that defensive line. I'm challenging them to go out there and be the dominant force that y'all are. Stop everybody. Like, yes, we have a lot of good pass rushers individually, but Sean knows as well as I do. Just like we were talking about that play back there, the reason that Sean was excited, because at this point in time in our career, this is when we really started to learn how to pass rush. Like, hey, D Moore, go over there and do your thing, Damontre. I know you're going to do this and rush wild and crazy. Do that. Sean makes it up for me. Hey, this play is specifically designed for Sean to go up top and keep in our pass rush lanes. And that's the one thing that has been killing us in the South Carolina game and in the Auburn game of not keeping pass rush containment. So, sorry, it made me mad. But, yes, let's come out there and just play like y'all had in the beginning of the year. And I think we'll be fine.
But, man, oh, man, I'm glad Damontre Moore echoes my sentiments when it comes to those pass rush lanes and the things that he's
same thing earlier.
It's very similar to what I said in defensive in review. I think my 2 points would be early explosive plays on offense. And that starts with, obviously the wide receivers because we want to get downfield. So I need
I thought that might have been their best game.
Yeah, they played well. They played all right. So I think that them coming out awake, them coming out alive in the first quarter and in the first half, big plus for us. We need that to happen on Saturday. And on defense, I need us to play with the level of togetherness and cohesiveness and play with each other and for each other. What does that mean? That means I'm not going to jump out of my gap whenever, when it's not my turn to run the crazy stunt and to do, the crazy thing that's going to make me an individual play. I'm going to play for my teammate. I'm going to stay in my gap for my teammate. Whether I make the play or he makes the play, we're going to win.
I think for me, it's totally agree with everything you guys say. I think if they do that, the pass rush, the not, the staying in your, handling your responsibility.
Discipline.
Like,
Gap
I
discipline.
think with that comes winning on early downs. With that comes Quinn Ewers, where he's got to throw, and you take away that over-the-top stuff, and you sit on that short stuff, and you get pressure on them. So what I'm getting at is they've got to win the turnover battle, and they're not going to do that unless they win early downs. So my two keys are going to be this. Offensively, they've got to be consistent running the football. They don't have to be dumb. Like the other night, I thought it was fine. He ran 27 times for 90 yards. It's not a high, but they never had to, even when they were down 21 up, they didn't have to give it up. They didn't have to just put Marcel back there and say, throw it every down.
Right.
That will lose. They can't do that.
Right.
You got to be ahead of the chains, and then Marcel's got to be, to me, for them to win, he's going to have to play the best game we've seen him play.
He's got to play off script, I believe.
Yes. And then on the second thing I'd say is this. I think that the defense, this is what worries me. And if A&M handles this, I think that's when they can win one of those, like, what they beat us that year, 26-24. They can win that kind of level scoring game. And I think that's A&M's. An Aggie win is like 24-20, 27-24. Like, and to do that, Trey, I think what worries me most is they're going to have to. What worries me are these backs and these quick throws to the receivers, but especially the backs leaking out, and just those guys and us not making plays in space on their skill guys. And these little throws becoming bigger, that's my concern. Because I think Elko could, if he wants to, he can scheme to, you're not going over the top. Like Auburn did it, we're not going to let you do it. But it's the underneath stuff, and that's what Quinn, bails him out.
We can tackle. We have to, once again, it's just like the pass rush lane thing. We have to tackle together. I'm on the outside. I have the outside, the curl flat out here.
Yeah.
And my other player has the hook, so he's inside of the receiver. The receiver catches the ball in the middle of us. The outside player, run to his outside hip. Inside player, run to his inside hip. We're all making the tackle, but we're keeping our integrity and we're helping each other out because I'm going to push him back inside. You're going to push him back outside to me. Where can he go? There's a guy behind us filling that hole. You know what I'm saying? It all works together. Defense all works together.
So, go ahead.
My bad. Just not to make it too much longer-winded, but what that comes down to, what we're all talking about is trust. Like trusting your assignment. This is the very last game of the season. We all know what's at stake, playoffs and all that. But it's a certain level of trust to know that I know this guy isn't going to miss the tackle. And when you have that confidence to say that, you say, hey, I can be selfless because I know that later on it's going to get into play. If I get a sack right now, I know that I'm going to set it up for him later on, and we can play assignment football. And if we play assignment football and make those tackles, because literally that's what it is. We get there to make one person get there to make the tackle, but typically he missed, and then we don't have nobody rallying. So if we go out there and play assignment, we're going to be good.
All right, guys. So it is just straight up. The old saying goes, if Texas A&M, like if Aggies, if they went 1-11, they'd be happy if they beat Texas. And I know that's not how any of us three think, although we know how bad we want to see A&M beat the Aggies beat the Longhorns. But it truly is. You can finally get the best of both worlds. You have one game to win, and it is Texas. And if you win that game, you not only keep them out of Atlanta in their first year in the league, which would be just our own personal hell, right? It would be like Aggie hell to lose to Texas at Kyle Field, and then they go to Atlanta in their first year, and you haven't done it in 13.
Yep.
Or you can beat them. They'll go to the playoff, but you can beat them, get to the conference title game at their expense, and they've done a lot of talking all year. And if this is their best team since 2010 and you beat them in Elko's first year, and in his first year they go to the SEC title game, man, that
big
would
for
be
the bragging rights.
Pretty spectacular. Pretty spectacular. Gosh, I don't even know what if this team gets to Atlanta when there's been some other really good A&M teams in this league that couldn't. I think Mike Elko is on to something really, really special.
Yeah.
Because
I think even if we don't, he's on to something special.
Yeah,
because I think this has been a great season, and he's come in and he's kind of set his standard and been able to set this team up for success moving forward. So I like Mike Elko. I want to see him around here for a long time, and for us to establish a culture to where we have a coach and all the kids around the country know I'm coming to play for this coach at Texas A&M, and it's going to be like this.
Trey, and close us out. Like, give me. We're 11 games into the Mike Elko era. Give me your thoughts thus far as we prepare for. It's the first time since A&M's been in the SEC, and it's the first time since 1998 that Texas A&M is playing in the final game to go to a conference championship game. Close us out with your thoughts, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah, well, can't wait to see y'all on Saturday. Appreciate y'all for having me on the show. And if I had to describe Elko's era, what they say, imitation is the best form of flattery. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give it to the unsung hero of the last time that this A&M game has had, Coach Sherman. People have not given him the credit that he did with as far as developing a foundation and building that. And what Elko, what we've seen and what we heard about, he wasn't the pretty name coming in, but everybody that played up under him when he was a defensive coordinator, his tenure at LSU, they talked about the man and developing people. And that's the reason how Sherman built up such a great foundation to where we were prepared to come in that first year in the SEC and dominate and do what we did. He's building a foundation. The players are developing. For him to come in and do it this first year, it is special. And he is holding it there. So the foundation is there. The bricks are being laid. And the job isn't done yet. The job isn't done yet. So with that being said, keep doing what he's doing. I can't wait to see Elko and what he's going to turn this program into in these next upcoming years.
All right, Trey. Appreciate you as always. Hopefully getting these two on leads to a big night of taking down the quarterback on Saturday. We're getting the good vibes going over here. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, Damontre.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
All right, thanks again. We're out.